Hello, my name is Jonathan. This is the Haystack. Um, I just had a few minutes, so I thought I'd go live for a little bit. And I got the statistics from the poll that we just did. All right. If you haven't seen this poll, it is up on my channel in the community section, and it's about um, asking what do we think Elder Oaks will speak on this general conference, and what subject will it be on? We heard on Christian Homestead that President Oaks will speak on a subject that has not been spoken in general conference for some time, and that two other speakers would speak on the same subject. So I was curious what that subject might be. And hey, Betty's here. Hey, Betty. Hello. Let me just open up my paper real quick. Okay. So the questions were what rare topic will President Oaks and two others speak on this general conference? The first one was clarification of the Davidic servant. That's at 16%. 144,000 or Pioneer Era. That's 8%. The sealed portion of the Book of Mormon or Hill Cumorah at 24%. Preparedness. The third one is food storage or preparedness. That got the highest amount of votes at 39%. The next one was just show me in the comments. That had about 13%. Cindy Jomo, I'm not sure how to pronounce these names, but she said Heavenly Mother. And then Matt Magite Carms 60 said Godhead. And then Heavenly Family said the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. So those are all good guesses too. But going back to the food storage and preparedness, um, and here Betty's even suggesting it here still as preparedness. Now we know not long ago that Elder Betnar said, "You may wonder why we haven't spoken on this for a while," and emphasized how it's been spoken about a lot. And then my former boss, Connor Boyack, who runs Libertas Institute, he actually did a Sunday musing on this, and he talked about preparedness, and that's his calling, helps people with their preparedness, and it showed a huge statistic of most people are generally prepared for about a month. And he did it across various platforms. I suggest you go check out his video. But I started thinking about our food, and I've thought about preparedness a lot. And I have the basic stuff, the dried stuff, the things that we can carry and live off of. Not stuff that's particularly enjoyable. We got tons of sugar. We can and herbs and things like that. So we can make something flavored different if we need to. But we have a lot of just basic stuff that would keep us alive. The one subject he hit was what about water? How many of you guys have water on hand? Now I've got two large 10-gallon drums, and I was going to change out the water in that this year. I think it's at its cycle of where you have to recycle it now. And I've got a bunch of gallon jugs and 2.5-gallon jugs everywhere. Betty says, I've got more. I won't say how much, but the Lord has helped as we have helped others. That's true. We've given a lot of what we had to people here in town until we realized they're kind of just using us to and other members of the church to kind of just stay at home and quit all their jobs and just hang out and do whatever they want. And they had some serious things to take care of, like plumbing and everything. And so helped them out there. We gave them tons of meat that was given to us to give to them. Um, and we gave him lots of our own food stores. But the food storage and preparedness, one thing that uh, Betty says, you guys help the missionaries. Yeah, being a missionary out here, um, we ate very well because of the members. Um, one thing Connor pointed out was the the amount of preparedness that has been spoken to us in the past. Why would somebody then? Why would we then be given a talk on it when we've been lectured on it since forever? It's a basic understanding of something that we need to do. Um, it's something that we ought to be mindful of and wise stewards of in general. But it's not enough just for us to have our own food stores, but have enough for ourselves and our neighbors, be willing to help. And I'm not a doom and gloom person. I've gone through difficulty and relied on food storage and savings and everything. I've been homeless. In 2007, economic crash and fires came through. It sucked. I've slept on the street. I've gotten beat up on my 19th birthday. Woke up to getting the junk beat out of me by a bunch of people who were high on methamphetamine that didn't know what they were doing. Um, lots of homes burned down. One house I stayed out had a hiking backpack and my longboard and all my belongings, and that burned up. Betty Horn says, I believe it was President Grant who said, we can't feed the hungry with empty shelves. Yeah. We can't. uh, uh, Heber J. Grant had the hardest job I could possibly imagine for anybody. Uh, coming up through the Depression, he himself being saturated with mortal weaknesses, and then he making an effort to turn them into strengths. He did that on such a high level, especially with the church and the finances. One thing I noticed in Doctrine and Covenants is that it said that Zion will be redeemed. It's not needful to do it right now, but eventually it'll be redeemed, and it'll be redeemed. You'll be blessed if you could redeem it by purchase, which is one thing I highlight with the Kirtland purchase is that this was a blessing to Oliver Granger. This was a fulfillment of the Lord's promise that he would make Oliver Granger a merchant in his own due time, and that his handling of everything in Kirtland came back the way it did for us today. And so we are seeing that. And I really hope that somebody speaks on this because I feel like that is a huge, major thing that we should note. And I don't think I'm being too forward or anything by saying that this is a fulfillment of of a promise or to the that the Lord gave to Oliver Granger in section uh, 117. But the scriptures and Doctrine and Covenants also say that if we do not redeem Israel by purchase, that it must needs come by blood. And that is not something anybody wants. And we certainly have done well in building up for this money. And a lot of the criticism that came against the church about having so much money, tithes, um, to me, I'm fine with it. If they're building a mall up with their investments, that's fine. But the criticism was that it was being held in reserve for the second coming. Would that involve this money being set aside for such types of purchases? Betty Horn, we will hear about a lot of miracles that have happened since President Nelson's statement. Did you hear that from somebody? I mean, imagine because they always review what President Nelson says. Uh, I wonder, like, again, I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I've been put through the ringer, and just like uh, uh, Christian Homestead, Jared said, It's like, we've been going through tribulation. For me, I'm like, heck yeah, I've gone through tribulation. I know I have. I know lots of people have. Betty, no, but I think it will happen. I agree with you, Betty. Um, the other I put up other things on here as subjects that might be talked about. One of them was clarification of the Davidic servant. Now, a lot of people have been suggesting Abraham Gileadi, foremost LDS expert on Elijah. Um, and the thing is like I know what he's saying, but I don't feel the same way about it. And I thought that might just be me because of how popular his video, everything has become with him. And so I'm like wondering, I just must not be seeing it. And then I saw uh, Watcher Palmer, Brother Palmer, say the same thing. He's like, I don't see it. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. I'm not the only one, okay? Because I don't see it the way he's describing it. Um, and so because so many saints are just flooding that idea, I wonder if there will be some clarification. Betty says she's with me on Brother Gileadi. Again, there's nothing against him. We all love him, appreciate his scholarship and his work. Um, but for some reason, it's not clicking for me on what he's saying there, and that could be a lack of information on my part, or it could just be misunderstood. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's a preparatory. We always have things uh, partially wrong, and then it prepares us for further and further understanding. The other thing I put on here was the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon, or Hill Cumorah. The reason I put that there is because the geography of the Book of Mormon has become way more popular than before. To me, since I was a kid, it's always been popular. And reading the Book of Mormon for the first time when I was 11, well, I thought this was all North America. But then all the church stuff would show Central America. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, I guess so. South America, the Panama can, is the thin land area. But then it just didn't click for me either. And I've seen quite the more I study Native American traditions and history and all of that, and even Central America, like one thing, for instance, is the Great Spirit. Now we know that Ammon speaks to King Lamoni. King Lamoni understands God as the Great Spirit. Well, what cultures refer to God as the Great Spirit? We know for sure the Native American cultures do. Um, Even Joseph Smith, when these guys first go over to the Native American populations, they refer to the Great Spirit. But then they actually, in Central America, have names for God, Quetzalcoatl, and thousands of other names that resemble a lot of the Chinese, a lot of Chinese writing styles and Chinese iconography. Betty says, I think the only reason the geography matters is because Joseph Smith said it was here. Yeah. Spencer Gibson, Heartland all the way. But I won't say some South America. Won't say some of South America once involved. But I truly believe Joseph Smith when he says he walked across the plains of the Nephites. Absolutely, I agree with you there. And I think that uh, all of the coast, central, south, and north coast of America, you have a huge population at the end of the Shang dynasty that just disappears from China. It flees to the East Sea. And then we have this huge population increase around the same time. And that's where the DNA is. One thing I've been noticing is I don't understand why Scripture Central, which I love them, is why do they not entertain the anything else from Native Americans and their history and even their DNA, the X haplogroup, which does connect. Now I know the arguments against it is, well, that's from a ice age period, and they came over on the ice bridge, and so that must be where all the blood came over from. But there is no trail of DNA or anything that comes across. It's just primarily in the Great Lakes region, and their oral history matches our Middle Eastern history too, of of the creation period. It's just through more of that lens, and then we see that DNA over in the Middle East, like right where the Uruk, where Abraham would have been, and over in Nazareth, Jerusalem or Israel. And so, how do you get a haplotype primarily in two locations without a large migration trail? It just doesn't make sense. Lisa Alvarez, hi Haystack, thanks for going live. Will you be going live for General Conference? I don't want to interrupt anything that Jared's doing, and I know that Jared's going to talk about some stuff if it seems relevant to him. There's lots of things that I feel like are always relevant. Like, was it 2 years ago after General Conference, the theme of sealed was just, it was everywhere. And it's not something that they said in General Conference, but it was in all the references that I could find. And it led me on this huge scripture chain of things that were very meaningful for me. I will go live if Jared doesn't, and if I feel like there's something to actually talk about, because I know everybody's going to be going live, and I'm a nobody really. I just like to share my thoughts and put people to sleep by talking. Um, Betty, I have a friend who is Brazilian, and she says many times that she can literally feel the spirit when she enters U.S. territory, long before the the pilot announced it. Christian Zybarth, hey, Christian. So Betty and Christian want to do videos with both of you where we could chit chat like this. And then I also have one with Ed Goebel that I'm trying to plan for next Friday. But I also have I'm campaigning right now, so I keep getting notified of a opportunity to go speak somewhere, and it's kind of last minute. Like right now, I'm going to be heading over to the Baptist church again and just talking with people there. Christian, I have about 4 minutes before I have to go. Yeah, me too. I should probably go already. Um, but one thing I wish we could get just whenever I'm ready. Thanks, Betty. Um, one thing I wish Scripture Central would do is give some more attention towards the Native American population. They by far fulfill everything that's been stated about the promised people. They're treated just like the Jews have been treated, ostracized, erased from history. And when we study South America and Central America, that's like studying Egypt and Mesopotamia to understand Hebrews, but without studying Israel or the Hebrews themselves. So we could see the influences, but we're not really studying the source that is available. So I feel like if we looked at their histories and everything, it just makes so much. I don't know why they're blinded by this. Um, Spencer Gibson, and they try to appear as an official church group, but they've always had suspicions about them having a bias from the top. Yeah. Betty, yep. Christian, there's a very recent talk by Elder Echohawk about Native American. I actually watched it. I love Elder Echohawk. He distinctly, he's a 70. He deliberately says, no, Native Americans are the people from the Book of Mormon. In fact, he mentioned L. Tom Perry speaking to 70s, and they read the introduction of the Book of Mormon, and it says um, that this is a record from the Nephites and Lamanites written to the Lamanites to be brought forth by the Gentiles. So when Joseph Smith translates this and he says, "Go teach the Lamanites," and we go directly to the Native Americans, particularly, groups like the Fox tribe, these Algonquin groups, that that should speak volumes. I don't know why it's ignored. And just the fact that I think that there's lots of Meso people who want to avoid Heartland stuff because it invites there's more opportunity for faith crisis. I think it's easier if you could just say, "Oh, there's a vast, huge jungle, and we could see that there's stuff. We just have to find the right one," or this matches. It's so diverse that it'd be hard not to match something. Um, but I think it invites um, faith crisis because Joseph Smith, his brother, like when Joseph Smith was healing from his leg, his brother Hiram attended Moore's Indian College by Dartmouth, and they were teaching Native Americans to teach Christianity to the Native Americans. And so a lot of antis look at this and say, "See, that's where he gets all the ideas. That's where everything comes up." And to me, I'm thinking Hiram is studying all day, comes back to Joseph. Joseph is bedridden. He has nothing but his thoughts in the Bible with him. That's it. So he's going to question Hiram left and right. Tell me everything you know. And he's reflecting on that. His mind, everything was prepared. And this falls right in line with what President or Elder Betnar said at a missionary conference. I had asked him about revelation among the brethren and how it is received and carried out. And he spoke for like an hour, reviewing the callings of prophets, the preparation of prophets, and revelation, and that how typically things in the church have been worked on for 20 years. And so you're 70, who's been working on a project, becomes an apostle who's now in charge of a project. But then we see the fulfillment of this project when that person becomes president of the church. But it was initiated by like three presidents earlier. And so the church certainly isn't myopic. Lisa Alvarez, I don't think they will talk about food storage because I think it will scare everyone. I think it's possible General Conference will talk about getting out of debt. Spencer Gibson, yes. Rod Meldrum and Wayne May have great data and presentations on the subject, and they often get ignored. People, for some reason, want to believe it's South America because there are big structures. Oh, sorry, Betty. I should probably get going too. I'll just close with a few remarks. Um, Lisa Alvarez with getting out of debt. That food storage may scare everyone. The one point that Connor Boyack made in his Sunday musing was that is this a natural sifting of the saints? Is this where we're taught and told to be loving towards one another? Are we legitimately going to see people in a time of need far greater than ever before, more than COVID? And how are we going to respond? Are we going to hoard our own food stores? Or will we be told, actually, saints, don't share? This time, don't share. I don't know. Um, I I do think that the Lord works in various ways. He'll allow the righteous to die, suffer, and everything because he'll just bring them unto himself. And when he comes again, it's those that are still living, right? Meaning that difficulty has come, and death is not. It's not the worst thing that can happen. In many cases, it may even be a mercy, so that we can come down with him. Um, and I actually emailed Wayne May. Wayne May has very, very awful Wi-Fi at his house, internet at his house up in Wisconsin. Um, he wanted me to reach back out sometime this past month, and I wanted to order his new issue, his new magazine, where it said this is the wooden stake in Book of Mormon geography, but I went to order. I couldn't just order that one from this past month, and I accidentally thought I found it, and I ordered last year's March issue, and that's interesting too. I mean, it's all stuff I've heard. I've heard their presentations a billion times, and I love them. Um, and I think the issue surrounding um, this March issue, I still need to get it because I wanted to do him the service of reading it before interviewing him, so I have questions to ask about that. Um, and I think it has something to do with the tribe of Gad, whose symbol is like the sailing ship, the Phoenician-looking ships, or is it row ships? I think there's a distinction about what kind of ships they are, and that Gad's promises, and that it wasn't actually a Phoenician ship that the Mulekites took. It may have been some a different type of ship. Um, Probably more Viking in nature. I don't know. With all those rows on it. That's what the Romans, the Egyptians, the Greeks had at the time. Um, Sailing ships were a Phoenician thing. And then we have this rise of these rowing ships up in Scandinavia and far up north. So that might be accurate. Um, they've already talked about getting out of debt in the past. Warning is past due. Yeah, we've we've managed to stay out of debt my whole life. I've there, it's always been some kind of, it was literally an economic collapse, and I'm out on my own, and there's no jobs. Competing to get a basic part-time job against a Marine with a 4-year degree who's also looking to support him and his family. And it's like, yeah, I'll take it 850 an hour job, you know. So I stood at Home Depot with all the Mexicans and didn't learn Spanish that good, but I I got some jobs, usually by stoners that were just like, yeah, I'm gonna help you build. You're gonna help me build a deck, and I'm like, okay. Lisa, yes, people will struggle if they ask us to bring in our food storage to stake centers. Remember, if you bring in some food storage, it better be the best stuff, not the expired junk stuff. Back in 2007, 2008, during all those fires, it was awful. I found a can of hash. I found a can of tomato paste. I would go and pick up bottles and cans in the middle of the night because I was ashamed of my circumstance. And then I'd go recycle them and get like 5.76 and go buy potatoes and bread and peanut butter and jelly. And I lived off of that, or eggs. And that was how I was able to get by. However, I've been fortunate enough that my wife has done very well for herself, and we've managed to stay out of debt and pay off our vehicles, and now it's just a mortgage. But Spencer, they're focusing on Christ's coming. That is true. Jared just covered the new cover of Liahona, I think it was, or Strength for Youth, and now it's feeling the marks in the Savior's hand. I've actually been thinking about that a lot, and we did a little Easter thing with our kids. We opened up eggs, and there would be a nail in it or a piece of rope or thorns. We were safe, don't worry, because we also egged like 2 other people's houses in the neighborhood and left it out, and we put danger pokey stuff. And we made it a little fun thing, and the last egg would be empty, but it would come with scripture and a description of what is going on with Christ. But one thing I know for a fact, it's I listened to that biblical archaeologist who I've had on. I'm going to have on again in the future. Um, he talked about the resurrection and it a lot of things actually, and it was not what we believe in, and it wasn't what I would think that most Christians would believe. I would think that they would think it's a literal physical resurrection, and it just shocked me. And he's like, "Oh well, if you're waiting for Christ to come, then you're already too late. Um, he should be in your hearts." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I get that. He's in our hearts, but he's gonna literally come back too." um, and I get the point he's trying to make is that we remain faithful and look forward to uh, that the conversion towards Christ should be no different whether he's physically standing before us or whether we've gained a testimony through faith and following through on that faith, having it tested. Um, they're focusing. Okay, some Christians confuse the rapture with resurrection. Yeah, it's funny because this um, archaeologist, he actually says a lot of things that support everything that we believe, but I don't know why he just doesn't make the connection, and I wonder it's probably because he has a caricature of what we believe, but not what we actually believe. So there's a connection missing somewhere in there. But he's very loving. I think I think if more Christians were to read the Book of Mormon with the same analytics and insight and apologetics or whatever, with the same criticisms that they use in the Bible and apply it to the Book of Mormon, their minds would just be blown. Their spirits would be uplifted. Um, I do have a couple more videos on the temple that I want to do. Just having trouble finding the time. Every time I sit down to a computer, the kids are like, "Wow!" And it just gets screamy. But I put together a trampoline for the kids, so hopefully they'll spend a little bit more time outside. And the older ones, they work together really well, but you get that middle child comes in and just starts screaming, and so hopefully I'll have a little bit more time, especially after these next couple weeks. I've got to go over to church, the Baptist church, and see if what's going on. The big debate doing is tomorrow. Let's see. There's more of that screaming. Not sure if you could hear. Um, Spencer, I feel you about working with kids around. It's impossible. Literally have to disappear in order to work. Yeah, missing pieces of the book, uh, pieces of the gospel, which the restored gospel and Book of Mormon reveal exactly. Lisa, enjoy your young kids. They grow up fast. I know. I'm with them all the time. I hold them, read books with them, do school with them. It's just I gotta stop being asked questions after a minute or two. I need to not hear high pitch noises because I start not being able to put thoughts together and I forget what I'm doing and I'm like I'm trying to remember something, but all I hear is crisis after crisis. I go, oh well, what is it? What is it? He looked at me. He looked at me. It was the worst. It was the worst. But I'm okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's I would think that this would be torture to put an adult into a room and have random high pitched noises with no way to fix it and just see innocent children hurting each other or complaining, not even hurting each other, just yelling, not even yelling. They're just squeaky. Like They're so happy. They watch Bluey, and Bluey goes, "Ee!" and then they run off. And so my two youngest ones or two middle ones they replicate that on a daily basis. Ee! And then run. Ee! Uh, Spencer, I've been enjoying reading the Book of Jasher and Apocrypha. Cool tidbits in there. Yeah, I've read it. I enjoy it. Also, have you listened to David Butler's view on the Book of Mormon temple connections? Yeah, actually, that's what confirmed a lot of the things in the temple for me. Is once I saw him on, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm not crazy. Like and this is what happens often is I see something in the scriptures, but I've never heard it before. I try and keep it to myself, or if I try and share it, maybe in private, maybe just finished a meeting and with a ward member after hours and we're just chit chatting, subject comes up. And those are the times you can share things. It feels like. To me, that's a normal, fun interaction. But try and share it with like a family member, I just put them to sleep. Or they're like, or other family members that they go, That's nice. I can't wrap my hand around what you're talking about." But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, well, all I know is that we follow the brethren, and that we're not prophets, don't receive revelation. That's the thing is not claiming revelation on behalf of the church. Never have ever. It's just these connections, this temple procession. Now, when you look in the Book of Mormon, look up the way, the truth, and the life. Look up uh, parallels to those types of words, like uh, the truth. Could you could also look up light um, or understanding, things like that. And what, without a doubt, I found this is one of the temple videos I want to go over is I have found that this is a temple procession, tabernacle procession, and it all talks about the gospel and it carries you right through. It's the plan of salvation, it's the gospel, it's our purpose in life. It's all there. And then David Butler says it more. He shows more details and does a very good job with it. Like I can identify and see that a gate opens. Go, guys, there's a gate that opens over here. He'll be able to give you all the meticulous composites and why it opens and the hinges and all the details. And people just criticize me and, well, does it slide open? Does it swing open? I just say it opens. I haven't gotten that far yet. Anyways, Spencer says, yeah, it always seems we're in a small club of people who like deep dives. Yeah. All right. This has gone on far long enough. I got to get going to a meeting, and my wife is looking at me like, why am I still here? So we'll see you later. Wait, I don't know how to turn it off.